Commissioner Thomas, will you say the prayer? And Kevin, will you lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Father God, we thank you for being God Almighty, having our power in your hand. We thank you for this night. We thank you for those that are here that are interested in county business. Father, we ask that you continue to bless those that are here and those that are concerned. Bless this board that we may do the things that you would have us do to be pleasing in your sight. Father, we ask that you also allow our county to grow and enlarge our territory. Father, we ask that you bless those that are fighting in harm's way, that we can exercise this right as we speak right now. We pray in your Son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adoption of the agenda, we have a couple changes. Bear with me. Like to add letter H to consider or approve not to proceed with CBDG grant. And we have a guest here under 6, presentations and announcements. I'd like to add Mr. Brett Manning. Do you have one?
No.
Anyone else?
Mr. Brett Manning and Ms. Lynn Ashcroft.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And where is that going to be added?
Presentations and
Presentation.
announcements.
Is that the B?
B?
B.
Approval for the minutes of our regular meeting, March 4th.
I make a motion we approve that agenda with the
Yeah,
modifications.
I'm sorry. Skip one
Second.
there. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner McCreary,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Hickox. Yes.
Approval of minutes for regular meeting, March 4th.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. To have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner McCreary,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Hickox.
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon.
Yes. Under citizens concerned, have Mr. Rufus Dixon.
Hold on.
Wait, 6.
Presentations and announcements.
Sorry, I skipped one. I'm sorry. Let me back up. Number 6, presentations and announcements. Second reading, possible changes in the Enabling Act. And we don't have to read that, is what I understand, Mr. Drawley. Andy?
That is correct, Mr. Beaver.
That's correct. You're not required to read it. It is required to be adopted at 2 consecutive meetings that are, I believe, more than 15 days apart. So we can take care of that part in a new business.
Okay.
And we did add, and I'm sure Commissioner saw it, we added, basically the only thing that we added was we had the OCGA, the code section in there, but instead of just leaving the code section, we just added all the verbiage to that was in the code section, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, so if you think about it, what you may be, and Mr. Beaver can back me up on where I go astray. If you think about what you hear all the time is like a city charter, it's kind of like the same thing. The county doesn't have a city charter, we have an enabling act. And it was put forth by the legislature years ago or whatever to allow the counties to conduct business almost like a city charter would for the city itself. So on some of these items that when they're just kind of, I guess, administrative in nature, in other words, it's not anything that you would consider that it's really changing the function of the county. If it's administrative in nature, the legislature allows us to just, by making an ordinance, the county commission can change part of the Enabling Act. So what we're doing is we're changing our budget and our audits, because the budgeting process and audit process that was in our Enabling Act was from 60 years ago.
1963.
Yeah. So the way we've been performing hasn't been wrong, because as state law has changed, the county clerk has adopted with state law and done what the state says to do. So just to kind of make it clean, what we thought we'd like to do is just change the wording of the Enabling Act to reflect what we've currently been doing. Does that make sense?
Commissioner Thomas, I'm gonna turn it over to you to introduce your guest and what they're about.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have Mr. Brett Manning and Ms. Lynn Ashcraft. They're gonna make a presentation, and I will let them come forward. Thank you all for allowing them to present that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Brett Manning. I'm the Executive Director of the Heart of Georgia-Albemarle Regional Commission. Commissioner Thomas had asked to have someone from the Georgia Department of Community Affairs come speak about a relatively new program for affordable workforce housing. So to do that, we have Ms. Lynn Ashcraft. She's the regional representative for DCA for our region. So I'll just turn it over to her.
Hey, good evening. I'm gonna move
Good
this
evening.
just a little bit, so I have my notes in front of me. As Brett said, I'm the Region 9 Regional Representative for the Department of Community Affairs. Sometime last year, through last legislative session, Governor Kemp, through a lot of different growth that we have going on throughout our state, it was determined that housing is an issue in all counties of our state. And so one of the objectives of what Governor Kemp wanted to do was, as we grow business opportunities across the state, affordable housing for our workforce will continue to be growing need. So we all know that there's a need for housing at the Hyundai plant near Poola. That's obvious. But however, that one instance is going to be an outgrowth for all of us. So it'll affect the ports down at Savannah, over here near Jessup and Brunswick. It affects I-16 all the way up to Atlanta and in the north part. So one of the things that we're doing at DCA is we started a new program through the One Georgia Authority, which I'm sure many of y'all are aware of. The One Georgia Authority was part of the tobacco settlement funds that the state received. So through that program we started, or through that whole authority, we started a new program called the Rural Workforce Housing Initiative. Last year, let me see if I can get y'all to it right. Last year, we've had 2 rounds so far, and I'll tell you when I get to it, but the first round had almost $9 million of awards made, and this is to help cities, counties, and development authority provide infrastructure for these housing developments. So I'm gonna go through the little PowerPoint that we have really quick, and if you have any questions, just stop me. Okay. Okay. So there's 2 parts to this program. One is a grant part. It's for infrastructure. It allows cities, counties, and development authorities to apply for a grant up to $2.5 million for water, sewer, and road infrastructure. This infrastructure is supposed to be able to help you if you're looking for a housing development. If you have a housing need, and you know in your county and city if you have a housing need, if there's a need in your community, and it looks like infrastructure is kind of holding up what the project can happen, this is a way that you can apply for funding as a grant for $2.5 million. There's also a loan portion to that where the developer can apply through the city, county, or development authority also, because as we know, the state cannot make loans to, we can't do grants directly to for-profit businesses for the gratuities costs. So we have a loan portion too, but it still has to be connected to a city, county, or development authority, up to $1 million. So for this program, we're looking at all conditionally eligible or eligible counties. Jessup is one, as y'all know from doing the tiers. Y'all are definitely part of those. You're eligible for those programs. Let me see. So like I said, the infrastructure grants are for city, county, and development authorities. It's kind of like what we're talking about for economic development, but these are going to help for housing development. We are looking at homes that range between $125,000 to $290,000. It cannot be more than $290,000, but I've done several of these projects with a couple of other communities in our state, and it's a doable project. It's a doable to build a house within that range. We're not looking for houses for people, that can afford a $300,000 or $400,000 house. These are houses, you know, that we're looking at that may be, you know, a new worker coming into your town, somebody that's just starting, that can be starter homes, because these projects can be layered with other programs that we have. But we are looking at trying to help communities allow for housing development. Some of the papers that y'all have the loan, and I also have this PowerPoint that I can get Brett to forward to y'all. It has all the information that I'm talking about. But it kind of goes through the whole process of how we do this. If you have a project in the city or county, you would notify me or Brett. We would set up an initial project assessment, which are always required for DCA projects. We'd come in, we would meet with your developer, we would look and see if the project that you have is ready to move forward. You know, because these projects, they want to be able to be done in 2 years. We have a project that we're doing in Toombs County. The developer already had the land, so they have the land already purchased. They have infrastructure right outside the city limits. They were looking at moving the infrastructure to that property, and then they were gonna clear the property and start building. So it's something that, you know, you may have a developer that's been here in the community that's, you know, wants to do something, they need infrastructure, they can't put the money in. It's something that you can partner with them, and we can look at putting infrastructure in. They are looking at water and all water, sewer, and roads are eligible activities. Water and sewer are the main ones that we're looking at. Roads are kind of like take a third priority, but most of the time it fits in all three of them.
So if you have a project that fits the criteria, what's the timeline for, we know government has a process. So what would be the timeline?
Start, finish?
Yeah, for the water sewer.
Well, I mean, that's entirely up to y'all. So start to finish, like when I start, or when the regional commission comes in, we do an IPA, an initial project assessment. Your project should be pretty much ready to go. So we would look at the next application deadline for One Georgia, which upcoming would be July. The next round.
It will be April, but.
The next round is July, so we have to do a pre-app by June. And then the next application cycle is September's the pre-app, the actual application's due in October. So those are the 2 upcoming dates. So we would have an initial project assessment, you would have a developer that's already, I mean, even if they don't own the land, they know what they want to do, they know what the infrastructure is. We need to have preliminary costs from a PER, from an engineer. You would need to have a housing study or a housing assessment. And if we haven't had one recently, we can get you in touch with some people that are doing housing assessments. Georgia Tech's one of the ones that's doing some. Georgia Southern did one recently for Evans County. So there's different ways we can get a housing assessment. It just shows what your need is, what kind of need. And these are not necessarily Section 8 housing. I don't want anyone to think that while I'm talking about this. Is affordable workforce housing. And so once we get the award made, you know, it will go through the award process. Usually it's, let's see, we did the last one January, and we haven't had that announcement yet. We're expecting the announcements from the January cycle to be any minute now, so in 3 months. So, I mean, if you were to do one at the July, it would probably be awarded by the end of the year, and then they would like to see construction started not construction, but infrastructure, you know, construction started pretty soon after that. The whole project, they want to see the first house built within 2 years. I've seen some projects that have 50 houses, depending on the size of the property. I talked to a community the other day that's gonna have 20 houses. Lot sizes, you know, it's developable depending on what your engineer and your contractor are looking at, you know, 1/4 of an acre, 1/2 acre. But like I said, the housing property prices, 125 to 290, are pretty set. It has to be within those 2 ranges. I was trying to see if there's anything else I have not hit on. I did say it can be combined with other DCA funding, such as like tax credits, CDBG. We have a program called Georgia Dream for people. This could be their first home. We can go in and help them. If this is their first home, they can purchase a home. You can do rentals. To do rentals, the calculation is a little bit different as to what you have to charge for a rental, and we can work on that if your developer wants to do rentals. But it has to either be all for sale or all for rent. So it's just the project, we have to look at it that way. So we can look at it that way. Okay, the first awards that we made $8.37 million in infrastructure awards. That was 500 homes to be constructed in 5 different communities. The second round, we announced $9 million, but it was in our region. It was in Toombs County, so we had that one. And then our third round will be coming up, hopefully any day now, for announcement. I did verify that there is more money in the program for 2024. Based upon what I could find today, and I verified, there was $37 million set aside for 2024 with an additional $50 million in the amended budget. So, I mean, the state, the governor, DCA, we're all supportive of trying to have housing in our communities where we know we need it.
Once the process is finished, the house is built, the grant is given, are there any stipulations after that?
As part of the special conditions and the general conditions that you would see in the award documents, and we talk about it at our site visits, you know, before we close out the grant like we do any other kind of DCA grant that we do, have the option to look at purchase prices just to ensure that none of the purchase prices of the homes were more than $290,000. But pretty much once the whole project is closed out, then that's it. We are at this point only doing one per community. So in Toombs County, we had Vidalia apply for one and they were awarded, and Lyons applied for one because there was two different communities. But we can't have it in the same community. So I had another community that the city wanted to do a project in the county. So we had to do one or the other. So this county applied first. Yes. And it's not that they can't, we just have to have one project up and going and the first house sold before, they want to do another project in the same community.
And is there an in-kind portion to this?
There is, but there's not a dollar amount, correct?
For the grant.
For the grant, it does ask for, whether it's engineering, that you pay for the engineering. I was trying to see if it said here. Whether you pay for a little bit, there is an in-kind portion. And there's something on one of these pages that says, it is competitive, and with all DCA grants, if you have, skin in the game, as they like to say, it looks more competitive to everyone else.
And I would advise if you're gonna do a grant if you're gonna do a matching, I believe the portion be matched, if the developer's not paying for it, or if it is in-kind infrastructure, to just show something that it would probably be better if the county or city, whoever did it, pays for the engineering out of their own funds, and just use that as a matching part of the grant.
It says no match required, but
You don't have to, but it's just.
leveraged resources will improve competitiveness.
Is there a minimum scope? I know you talked about you've seen one with 20 homes. Is for the grant itself, is there?
I mean, I think the least amount they said applications for under 250,000 will not be accepted. So grant applications can go from 250,000, because the one that I did look at last week for 20 homes, the total amount that they were really going to be requesting was 500,000. The one in Vidalia that we awarded was 2.5. So the least amount is 250,000. 2.5 million is the
Gotcha.
So that would be one of the upper houses, the one, I think you said 290,000.
Well,
But-
they can build any type of house they want to in that thing. So in the development, the one that we did in Vidalia, there's different kinds. They've got some that maybe 1,200 square feet. They've got some that'll be 1,500 square feet.
There are requirements that have to be two-bedroom and,
Yes. Well, I know there is for the loan.
okay, for the loan.
But the square footage was not a requirement. But, so there could be different types of homes in one development. There is a development that we had in a different community that were all gonna be, what do you call it? Duplexes. Duplexes, so they all sort of look the same. So, it's really kind of entirely up to the developer, whatever they decide to do. Any questions?
No, this is fantastic, because you get a developer coming in, and sometimes that infrastructure is the thing that it's not profitable at that point in time. To get something there to offset that is huge.
The biggest thing that we're looking for, as long as if it's in the county, which, and I know counties and cities do it differently, but either the county has to maintain the infrastructure, or the city has to maintain it. The one in Vidalia, it's right outside the city limits, but the city is gonna, they're gonna sign an MOU and they're gonna maintain the infrastructure because it's right there. So it's definitely a doable project. It can be done anywhere.
And we're ready to help city or county, whoever. If you have more questions, you can contact me.
Do we have your contact information?
I'll give you all a card.
I did not bring cards with Brett.
I can find
I know how to find Brett.
I was gonna say, we can find you through Brett, so yeah.
But the biggest requirement
Thank
is
you.
that we do an initial project assessment. So as soon as, if you have a project or if you have one that you want to talk about, even if we don't move forward, we do the initial project assessment. That is a requirement before we move forward with the pre-app. But after that, we can, go through specifics of anything else that's needed.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank y'all.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I thought it was very important that they made this presentation. I was asking about that about a month ago. With the last census, you understand, the demographic change in the city and county. We had a lot of people moving out of the city into the county, and the county is growing because people from one side to the two. And it affected all of us, especially my district, by people moving out of District 4. My district now extend all the way out to Dr. Town Road out there in certain areas. So it's very important for the city, but also important for us. The city needs infrastructure they're gonna build, affordable housing, whatever the case may be. I thought that you all needed to hear this and get this information so you can pass it on. Next thing is that if they're moving in the county, we're gonna have to provide room for them, affordable housing in the county where we have developers developing this kind of housing for them, whether it be single-family dwellings or duplexes, whatever the case may be. So I thought this was some pertinent information that we needed to know, and that, so that we can act on it. And my job as the chairman of the Region Commission is to make sure I serve 17 counties, city and county. I thought y'all needed to hear this information.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention also, I should have brought flyers, I did, we are holding a one-day housing conference. We're hosting it along with DCA, invite day at the Southeastern Economic Development Building. Hannah should have that information, if not, I know the chairman does, because I emailed him as well. So if y'all would like to register, it's free registration. And it'll be over a lot of DCA programs, including the Georgia Dream and Georgia Initiative Community Housing. So in other DCA programs and this program as well, it'll be a lot more information. So please, if y'all would, you're welcome to attend that.
If you don't mind, when I get to speak, can you say something to y'all?
Okay. All right. Yes, sir.
Is this, Brett, is it gonna be the DCA meeting y'all are gonna have, is it just for governing authorities, or can,
Anybody can come.
developers?
If you wanna give it,
Yeah.
If you wanna give that information out to a developer, that's fine. too. They
Okay.
can register.
All right.
What's the date of that?
April 20th, not April 20th, excuse me, May 15th. I got something else on it. May 15th.
In Vidalia?
Yes, sir, from 8:30 to 12. But, if Hannah, if she didn't get the email, let me know and I'll make
I think
sure
I got it.
she got it. Yeah, so you can register online for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Have a safe drive back to Eastland.
We're just gonna step outside and look.
Mr. Dixon, you're here to talk about the roundabout on Revenue Road?
Yeah. You got two safety items that, bypass, and the bypass, it's caving in the middle. And it's starting to cave in on the other side. So we need to get that fixed. That roundabout, when they put that in, they gonna come right up against that cement on that service station. Now, it's not gonna be if it's gonna happen. It's gonna be when it's gonna happen. Some idiot comes running around there, they're gonna run over the gas tank. Y'all can do what y'all want to with it, but it is a safety feature I'm bringing up to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, sir. I'd like to know what he's talking about. Y'all know what he's talking about?
No,
Not a clue.
I think
I
Rainier,
presume he's talking about the
You talking about the new, the
yes,
new
Billy Clanton.
overpass?
Billy Clanton overpass.
Off of 169 goes to Lanes.
Yeah, yeah.
You're talking
That's
about
it.
the end of the bridge?
Where are you talking about it's degrading at?
All right. Go down, Odom Highway, past the old school that they closed up.
Yeah,
Hang a right. You get in the center of that overpass, right there,
up at the top, when you say
at
so?
the top. It's been sinking there for about the last 2 years. Now it's starting to sink on the other side.
The downhill side.
Eventually, a car's gonna fall through it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dixon.
We'll take a look at it, Mr. Dixon. Thank you. The public hearings, beer and wine license, Shell Truck is changing ownership. Is that owner here?
Yes,
Okay.
it's Miss Patel back there in the back. And all they're doing is just changing the owner.
Just changing the names, right? Or changing the ownership?
Yes.
Okay. That's coming up for a vote in just a minute, okay? Old business, we have none. New business, here we go. Consider approve beer and wine license for Shell Truck located at 3499 Savannah Highway. Do I have a motion to approve the beer and wine license?
Any other qualifications?
Yes. They already have an existing license, they're just changing the ownership.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Hickox?
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon?
Yes.
Commissioner McCreary?
Yes.
Consider approve ordinance to amend enabling act. It's been on the agenda twice. I think we've met all qualifications.
Yes, sir, we have. We've run it in the paper and then also posted at the clerk's office, and so this is our second meeting on it.
Do I have a motion to approve the ordinance? Go ahead.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Any discussion?
Yes, I do. On that ordinance, I know Commissioner Hickox had asked that everything be stated in the enabling act. If that changes from, I guess it would come from the state, if their requirements change, does that number change?
What do you mean, does what?
The OCGA number, does it change?
It does, and that's why, well, on the first draft, and I think I included on this one, at the very end, we put as modified and amended. So, you know, at the beginning, we put in accordance with OCGA 3680-81-5, and then at the end, we put as modified and amended. So it would change in the code section. Now, it don't automatically change our enabling act to chip that language in there. We'd have to go through a
Okay,
process like this.
that was the question I had, because if we put it in our enabling act and somebody pulls it, we've just got to make sure that it's updated, like the one from 1963. I mean, we don't even have a Gazette anymore, and we don't have any commissioner meetings over there. So it would automatically, or we would have to bring it before us again to
It'd
make
have to
sure
come
it was.
before y'all to change it in our enabling. We'd have to, again, use our home rule authority to change it in our enabling act again, like what we're attempting to do here. The code section would, they may amend it, they may keep the numbers the same, but anytime they modify or amend the state code section to change our enabling act, like what we're trying to do here, it'd have to come before y'all. They wouldn't just automatically update the language there.
Okay.
And that would be something typically that Ms. Hannah would be made aware of.
Okay, that was my next question.
know-
How would we get?
I
the
was thinking that same thing.
Well, how we would
Yeah.
get the notification to make sure, because I don't want somebody, if I forget what it is, 360, whatever the OCGA is, and then somebody pull it up and pull up our enabling act and it's different from the changes, then, you see what I'm saying?
I do, and I think Ms. Hannah can clarify if she wants to, but the same way we got to where we are now is, you know, between the accountants and the state and her serving with the Clerks Association, saying, hey, here's the new laws, here's the new procedures that we have to hold in place. Would that be correct?
And then ACCG also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Hickox?
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon?
Yes.
Commissioner McCreary?
Yes.
Item C, consider approve bids for, and contracts for Lemig, 24 Lemig. I did speak with Mr. Elton this morning. The low bid comes in with Georgia Asphalt, and I was told that they're a good company. If everything was equal, that they would recommend Georgia Asphalt. So, do I have a motion?
You have a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you. Have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
I do have one comment. On the Empire Road, I rode it the other day. The integrity on the sides of those roads, hold on, let me get the paper. We have areas, you know, where people have been running off the road, and is there any way we can fix that before, maybe put that dirt in those areas where they've been running off the road, cause it's breaking the asphalt off? I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Can-
we can do some of that. And actually, we don't know yet if we're gonna get it. We had applied for some widening on that road. And that's one of the reasons that we're trying to patch this one up and buy a little time so that, if we get that funding, then that lets us use the LeMig somewhere else where we need it, so.
Okay.
But,
Is that in their contract that they're supposed to fix those?
all they're gonna do is put the asphalt down. We'll need to do some patching.
Okay. If we can do that sooner than later, so it's not worse, and, cause some of them are 8-inch drop-offs on the side of the asphalt.
That's something we need to fix.
And also on, go ahead. You go ahead.
We have, this contract was let for us, I say was let, was bid for $1,508,000. Our funding at this point was, $1,063,000, and then we were obligated to 10% match, which gave us, $1,169,000 and some change, to fund this with. That leaves us with a potential overrun here of something over $300,000. But, we do have an additional levy that we're getting for $1.3 million. We're getting prepared to submit, candidates for that project. And what we would hope to do would just go ahead and approve this full contract amount, $1,508,000. And then, the balance that's needed there would be done under the, additional levy.
Also on, Longleaf Lane, they're currently digging a, what would you call that, a pit, pond, a lake, whatever. Anyway, the only thing I wanna make sure, cause I've had several citizens' concerns about that road, and we did, I think we spent $80,000 paving the first portion of it because the integrity went away because of the stipulations we had for, subdivisions at that time. And, now it looks like we're taking, I just wanna make sure that we contact those contractors and make sure they're finished before we start any of this project, because they will, it will tear it up again, because,
What we can do with them, with the paving folks, we can just ask them to push this down to the end of the contract, which will buy us a little more time. In the meantime, I'll try to get something from those folks that's digging.
wait now, I don't want my people mad at me because we got pushed to the end. I just wanna make sure whenever they get ready, if y'all don't wanna I can contact them and make sure they're finished with all the heavy hauling. They had some equipment, because they're building a lot of houses in there, and just wanna make sure that we're all on the same page, and once they're completely finished, it may be right in schedule.
Yeah, well, it could very well be. Like I said, we'll work on that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Hickox?
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon?
Yes.
Commissioner McCrary?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Mitch Sutton, here to talk about the airport.
Man, you did good, but guess what, I'm prepared. I didn't know what kind of technology you had, but
I should have called you, I apologize.
dude, I don't, I was trained by Bobby Kickline. I knew not to show up.
That's right.
it looks like I'm here for, the airport inspection letter, probably just the overall report, I guess that's what you guys want. We did good on our inspections, we have these yearly, the state comes in and licenses the airport, and of course, you know, we see grant money, and there's grant assurances that we're required to, you know, to make sure that we have it done, and some of those are obstacles or obstructions that get in the way of aircraft coming in and out. 12 years ago, we got, I think it was 9 parcels of land that's across where like the Moody Nursery is on the 301 side. It was a nightmare. But we did get the trees cut down and got it in compliance. Well, 12 years later, some of those trees were topped to bring it down in compliance and give it time to growth. And we were hoping that at the time, that was some of the experts that were doing it, was hoping that they would stop growing at some point, but apparently some of those obstacles have come back into play. The first page is pretty terrible with all the red X's. We have 600 plus obstacles that are either in the way or potentially in the way.
Is that those, Mitch, on the back, yeah, that top?
This is the worst side, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so this is 301 side, this is basically pointing toward Brunswick, and this is 301 coming here. These were done by a LiDAR, that's just basically like a laser that they pass over an aircraft, and it can pick the height of each one of these trees and give an exact pinpoint of what tree is what height there. Anything in red is already out of compliance, and we meet, so basically it's kind of like a pitch on the roof on a home. You know, I got 8, 12, right, so every 12 feet of travel, it rises 8 feet. Well, this is 34, so every 34 feet it goes, you know, the angle rises 1 foot. So, you know, when you get way on out, it's rising. Well, anything in the red is penetrating that area off a level path off the end of the runway going up. Anything in yellow is getting real close. We got detailed reports on these things for each individual spot.
So that's Brunswick,
Now, this is federal prison
okay?
right here, and actually the first page you got right there, you can kind of see, this will be the federal prison, the golf course here, and then the runway here, and this is oriented east, west, north, south.
Okay.
Those are over there next to Moody's Nursery.
It's not in that wet spot.
Yeah.
Now, we got a few down this, you know, I don't know if you can get them with hip waders down there.
Right.
But here is where we really got, issues. And I took a picture, but I was kind of trying to write it when I was coming in, kind of where you can kind of see, but it was kind of funky. I mean, really honest. It was, I didn't get it good, but it's funny. But you can tell that some of these obstacles, when you're on the load path coming in, you know, what'll happen is they'll raise the approaches, which affects the operations of airplanes that come in. You wouldn't think this, okay, but even a jet taking off from the Brotherton coming back towards, we'll call it the Odom Inn.
Moody's Nursery.
Moody's Nursery Inn. They have performance characteristics that they have to make. If they lose the engine, they have to be able to clear all these obstacles, obviously. And you'd think a jet would have all this extra power, but during the first phase, there's times that they can't take off because they don't have visual reference to these trees and some of these obstacles out here with low warning. And our primary traffic that we have out here is the business people that come in, like Yellowwood, some people with Rayonier, some folks for the hospital come in. That's our primary customer out there. We do have some transit traffic, you know, it's kind of like a gas station, but not near like we do corporate traffic. So it affects some of those operations. The main ones it affects is like charter traffic. We do have people in the county that, you know, charter aircraft to come in and pick them up. We have, I mean, we're required to make pure pass, basically, as part of those.
How long do we have, Mitch, to get this?
We need to clear them out, you know, pretty soon. If I had my way, which, I mean, I'd have built this place in the middle of the desert, you know, when it was 1965. All this, you know, you didn't have, it was, you know, wooded land and no country club, I'm sure back then, I don't know when that was built, but, you know, you've got 9 parcels. We own what's called an air, or aviation easement, which is basically an air easement that covers our right to go in and remove these trees. We've done that before. We had to return, well, we didn't remove all of them. We took the tops out. Some of them, we moved a few of them that they would allow. But they had to return the land with the grass back, because this is in people's yards, you know. So, but if you had this clear, you would never have that problem for years and years and years. But I don't know that that's even an option. Kind of out of my scope, you know, this is, but.
Does GDOT Aviation typically offer grants and stuff for this?
They did grant this the first time, helped us clear these out, but at that point, over here on this other side of the tracks, none of that was affected at that time. So we don't have, these are the new parcels they talk about. I think we've been in contact with Jeffrey and Jeffrey Griffith, who just, the gentleman we met last year with the state. He's just still our representative with the state that helps us with our grants and things. But we would have some funding for this portion over here, but I don't know that we'd get funding for this. I can't, what I see we probably won't, because we've already had it cleared one time.
Mitch, how many feet is that, you think, from the end of the red dots there to the runway 11?
Probably 1,200.
1,200.
Feet, maybe something like that. See, probably, think about, probably 1,200.
A lot of trees. But they don't give you a timeline as to when this
Well,
has.
we got another inspection coming up next year in probably February, so they'll, you know, we would be hit. What this does affect is our funding. Because
Yeah.
we have to maintain our grant assurances, and if we got obstacles in there, they can start decreasing our funding for, you know, like our grants and, you know, continued development.
So did the county take those out the first time, or who's?
Tree service.
Yeah, Heritage Tree Service, back in the day, took those out and fixed all those for us, and I was surprised at what they did it for. I mean, I was surprised at what we had in the whole thing. I mean, far as like, I couldn't believe it was inexpensive at that time, but I'm sure it's not gonna be that today. I mean, I was amazed, okay, that we got all of those easements and all back then for, I mean, don't quote me on this, but I don't think it was more than $1,000, something a parcel, or 15, 2,000. I mean, it was not a lot. And then they went in there and removed those trees. Now that was more expensive, but we had, from what I'd seen that it could have cost, it was about a tenth at that time.
So you'll be the one to find out if the grant's gonna cover those that we've already done, or you already know it will not cover those?
We can get with Jeffrey and see, but I'm pretty positive that we have to keep what we've already been granted one time clear. And then anything that they're gonna involve their money in, we have to have approved, of course, up front before we ever put any trees down here. But now, I'm gonna say we need when it comes to all this stuff, we need somebody that is trained and used to dealing with this stuff, because I'm not. This is like I said, this is out of my scope for this. We got a consultant that we have hired. We probably have to do like a scope of services with them, and they will come in and help us get this done the right way. Because we did it ourselves the first time, and I'm gonna just be honest, I'm not willing to go back through that again, because I like to resign over this. This is tough. We had, dealing with a bunch of different landowners over there, and I can totally understand where they're coming from, because I like my yard the way I like my yard.
Do you know if we still own all the easements,
We do.
Mitch, as far as you know?
We still do.
So Mitch and I talked a little bit last week about this, and we're gonna try to set a date that we can sit down with Jeffrey Griffith with GDOT Aviation and, discuss this, cause just what Mitch is saying, I foresee this being a headache. I mean, if you've priced taking a tree down lately and you see how many red dots are on there,
Yeah.
and then once again, what Mitch is saying, even though we have easements, this is private property.
Yeah.
You know, and so we're trying to be as good neighbors as we can with folks. We wanna be, you know, but at the same time, we obviously have a balance there because, you know, we get a lot of grants and funding from GDOT Aviation.
Yeah, we just got $1.3 million, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, they do a lot for us, and so we're just gonna have to try to work through it, yeah,
Georgia is really working on their airports.
yeah.
And we do have, every time we add, it adds more funding to us. Every time we add to the size of our airport, like the fence, all that, we're fixing to be a regional airport. Not that that means commercial airlines are coming in, it's just the status of it. That we've been trying to reach for 20 years, and they wanted somebody to have or all citizens in the state of Georgia to be within 50 miles of a regional airport. And we'll be there. And that increases like some of this funding that we had for COVID and all. You know, every time we got $100,000, it was been like 150.
No offense, Mr. Elton, were you part of this when they cut those trees?
Did you run from it? Right, yeah, that was tough.
So,
I tell you who helped us, it was David Davis. And he did a fantastic job. He helped, and we got some appraisers out there, and they went through it, and it was them, and that's back when, Mr. Smith was on as the attorney, and we went through it, and it was, nerve-wracking for this one.
Any other questions?
so go ahead.
mentioned the fence, people were asking about the fence, they want to know how much fencing they're in favor, how they.
Actually, we got that fence for, the guy was here last year, we could not
Yeah.
believe it. We got that fence, it was bid, what was the next bid, $380,000?
Yeah.
We got $380,000 under the next bid. And that fence was paid for by the federal government.
They weren't even close.
And they're trying to fence in all these areas, ever since September
Is it
11th.
because of the deer? People use
It
that
really
supply.
helps, yes. It cuts down, but that's not a deer fence. That's really just a security fence to keep, it's to keep the feet traffic and other motorized traffic, you know, off the roadway.
I just had
Just
a
a
lot-
deterrent.
I just had a lot of people ask about it, they hadn't seen it,
Yeah.
they went out there and just, they want to know how much that costs, because that's a lot of
That's right.
fence.
And you know, I mean,
But the federal government pay for it.
right, and if they don't invest it here, they're gonna invest it somewhere else. And it's being invested everywhere else but here. You gotta look at Waycross and all these other places that are growing.
Nice fence.
And
Yeah.
Thank you, Mitch.
For the bad news.
hey, I'm tired of telling her bad news. I need loved and exit on that first.
Yeah. Yeah, the way there's just a red dot.
All right, next item E, consider approve aerial photos cost of tax, for the tax commissioner office. I spoke to Byron this morning, earlier today, to get some clarification on this. It's a 3-year contract, and what we do is we pay $20,490 per year for 3 years, and then you renew the contract. These photos are put on Q Public, the tax assessor's office uses them regularly. Something we need. It's I think this is year 3 I believe is what he said, year 3, so the contract will renew next year, but, do I have a motion to, consider approve the, invoice here, $20,490 for aerial photos?
I'll make that motion because I got a question.
Okay, I'll second. Any discussion?
It says deliverable include measurable oblique imagery. This is something we already have,
Yes,
and
we've had it for years.
we're just continuing to be able to, it's like a website or something, and you have to continue to be able to access it, and this is the fee to be able to get those pictures?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Well, where are the pictures? Because if we all get on Q Public and those aren't the house pictures, I mean, if they're the mapping pictures, those are even, not $60,000 worth. I'm just saying.
I think, and I'm just shooting from the hip here, okay? But I think like when I get on Q Public, you notice like on the left, in the left hand, the little
Yes.
bar,
Got
down
dates.
it's down at the end, it's got, like you can click on 2018 imagery, 2022 imagery, like every 3 years they update that imagery, and I think that's what this is.
Yeah, and you can see quite a big, quite a difference there on 2018, 2023.
Right, so I mean, it provides some historical data too, I guess, for,
This is something that tax assessor's office says they use daily. They can blow it up to where it can read, the streets, identify the streets, homes, any additional buildings, things of that nature. So we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Just for general purposes, when things come up like this, there just needs to be more information than an invoice. It just needs more. I mean, maybe somebody from the office could come down here and say, hey, this is what we use it for, this is what, because all I know is we just approved $500,000 for tax assessors to, and that's a touchy subject with any taxpayer to begin with. So I'm not saying we don't need it, I'm just saying the information is extremely limited. All we got is an invoice.
I agree with you, Jamie, and that's the reason I called Byron earlier to get what information I could, because he was not coming. I think they should represent their office at our meetings as well. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner McCrary,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Hickox.
Yes.
Next item is F. Mr. Drawdy.
this is in reference to, probably about 2 or 3 months ago, and it's kind of been ongoing since then. I met with Kimberly Bryant, who's the Transportation Project Manager for DOT. And one of the things we were talking about is Wayne Transit System. Part of my meeting with her was just so I could kind of get a better grasp on transit itself and how it works in conjunction with DOT, because, we get a grant for them that pays for our drivers and stuff. So in that meeting, one of the things that I found interesting that she pointed out is that typically when other counties consider having a transit program, they always point to Wayne County, because we're one of the only ones that has an on-demand system 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Now, that's been limited lately because of drivers, trying to get drivers. We're having, like everybody else, having a hard time getting drivers to come out. So in my discussion with Kimberly, we got to talking about, and she brought up our low pay and said, so what she did, she reached out and to some other counties that she facilitates or manages, and sent me the information. And you can see she gave me some similar counties, Walker, Thomas, and Columbia. and they have the director's pay up there, and that's, you know, an average of what they're currently paying. Dispatcher's pay and then the driver operator pay has got a range from $15 to $20 an hour. Typically, their driver operator salary budget, once again, an average is $320,000. Excuse me. Ours this year is $220,000, and then you have our pay over to the right, and we're paying our drivers $12 an hour. The idea is, in reference to talking to Miss Carolyn, our transit director, and then talking to Kimberly, Kimberly would really like to see our program expand even more than what it is now. We have 9 drivers. I know the other day, within the last month, we probably only had 4 or 5 that were kind of active at the time, just because of, you know, folks being out, folks being sick, just not showing up or whatever. So the idea is, when Kimberly and I talked, the idea is if we could up that pay, hopefully recruit more drivers and start expanding that system back to where it used to be. My understanding from what I'm told is the pre-COVID days, you know, Wayne County was just really rocking and rolling when it come to the amount of runs they were making with the transit system. So the fact that this is a DOT grant is one of those things where we pay out and then DOT reimburses us the money. You know, the state government runs on a July to June fiscal budget. Ours is January to December. But she assured me that if we went ahead and made a change or during this part of the year, that she can put a supplemental request in, and she said the state almost always honors it. So my proposal to y'all was I would like to go up $3 an hour. That would get us kind of that minimum $15 an hour for drivers. It would be an additional cost to us for $31,903. Now that's up front. Then with the idea that Kimberly would put a supplement once, you know, if y'all okay it, I'll email her tomorrow and say, hey, we're moving forward with a new salary range. She'll put a supplement in with the state of Georgia, and then ideally they will reimburse us that extra money. So it's still really no money out of pocket, unless now something happened and she didn't get the supplement. But talking to her, she pretty much always gets a supplement if she puts a supplemental request in at the beginning of the year. The other point that I left out was this. Part of that meeting was, you know, she wanted to talk to me about how many dollars that Wayne County's been leaving on the table, and a lot of it is because of our low pay. Like last year, you know, there was $100,000 in grant money that basically got returned to the state because we just didn't use it. So, whereas, hold on, let me give you some good numbers. Well, that's the wrong one. In the year before, it was like $668,000. This past year, they lowered our grant to $600,000, but it was because we're not utilizing all the money. So ideally, what we would like to do is utilize all of that state grant money, get our driver pay up, and start expanding that transit system.
So is that $3 an hour just drivers, or are we
No, that's-
adjusting everything
Yes,
$3?
yes,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Will you have adjustments in the director as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
For the director and dispatcher.
okay.
Yep, yep.
How much of this comes out of the general fund? Just for their information. I know we have to pay it forward, but we get reimbursed for it. How much of the transit system, far as the buses, the employees and things like that, how much of that comes out of the general fund budget?
I think they pretty much end up reimbursing everything, don't they, Ms. Hannah? Because I know that
I know you
we have
know.
to have,
Yeah.
we have to have our maintenance folks, you know, that our maintenance mechanics have to go to specialized training just to work on the transit van, because when those transit vans come in there for an oil change, they have to do a complete inspection on them, everything from brakes, seat belts, to windshield wipers, the whole 9 yards. So, yeah. It's a great program, and one that I would like to see us continue to utilize. I'm sure Commissioner Thomas would like to jump in here. I mean, that's it. I mean, the biggest issue is, I mean, we're literally, we have an opportunity to expand our program. Our program is seen throughout the state of Georgia as one of the ones, because, you know, they have, GDOT has three or either four different programs. One, you're talking about like your metro buses and your daily defined routes. Almost all of your rural counties run on what they call an on-demand system, which is at least 24 hours in advance. You can call down to transit and say, hey, I got a doctor's appointment in Brunswick, or hey, I need to go to here. I know at one time, I think pre-COVID, folks were going, you know, to work. I mean, literally working midnight shift over in Bryan County, and our transit was taking them over there. We need to do several things to expand this transit system. One of them is marketing. To get the information out, that's the biggest one. But my angst in that marketing portion is, you know, if we market it and get it out there, you know, if we just start marketing right away, and then we don't have enough drivers and buses to fulfill the need.
That's our issue right now,
Then-
is we don't have enough drivers
And
for
then-
what we have. We're having to turn people away.
And so what happens is people are like, well, I ain't calling them. Every time I call them, they can't come get me. You know, so I think we're going to work on it. You know, there's several different components to it, and we want to kind of take one bite of that apple at a time, get this driver pay done. And ideally, what I would like to do, if it works like I think it should work and the recruitment goes up with this pay raise, is next year we look at it again, and this is with Kimberly's advice, to continue up in that pay rate. As long as the state's going to pay for it, we can go that route, and then also throw that marketing part into it too, to expand it.
Do I have a motion? Oh, we have a motion, so that's discussion. Any more discussion? I'm sorry.
I'm trying to be quiet. Anyway,
Oh, go ahead.
we are the examples of transit, believe it or not, in this area, 17 counties. We make more trips than anybody, and been doing it for a long time. Ideally, in the future, raising the pay, most of the months out of the year, Wayne County, transit doesn't cost Wayne County anything. I think he can tell you that, she told you that. And with reimbursing the money, ideally in the future, there's other counties doing it to keep us where we need to be with advertising and everything else. We need to look at maybe hiring 3 full-time drivers. That way, your part-time people, you know, sometimes they can't make it or don't want to make it, what the case may be. It will keep transit where it need to be, but that's in the future. There's some counties that already do that now, so that's something else to look at. But I think we're headed in the right direction.
Anybody else? Yep,
No,
motion, do I second?
no,
Not on this one, I don't think.
Not on
You
this.
just turned it over to Paul.
Okay, I'm sorry. Keep me straight. So do I have a motion on the floor to consider approved transit driver pay, $3 increase?
You have a second? You need a motion?
Yeah, I need a
I'll make
motion. You have a second?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion?
And this is for approximately $31,000 that will ultimately be they'll change the grant to reflect that.
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner McCreary,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Hickox,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to also point out that if we decide in the future with raising the salaries and that I think we do need some full-time drivers, that money is also reimbursed. With the grants and everything, we'll be on the same level. It's not gonna cost the county little bit of anything.
Are you saying we don't have any full-time drivers now?
Don't have,
No.
We don't. They're all part-time.
they're all part-time,
Yeah.
with no benefit.
Well, maybe this pay increase will help get some new people there.
So it's hard to keep a driver, and, you know, they don't, no benefits, and They go to McDonald's and start out at $15 an hour.
Yeah. Next item is consider approved recreation purchase. We recently approved 2 trucks for the recreation department. They've come back and said they need a 3rd truck, a 4-wheel drive with a V8 in order to move the tractor around, really. That's the main purpose for it. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct. Excuse me, and I want to apologize too. Spec and I really should have identified this when they come forward to you, a couple of months ago when we purchased those 2 vehicles. And Commissioner Hickox, I don't know if you three, if y'all saw, I put a bid from Mike Birch. He updated his bid last week. I tried to get them in your books before y'all picked them up, and I failed to, so they should have been on your desk.
Yeah.
But same thing is what the chairman stated, is that Director Eccles and I were talking, and they really need a truck with a V8 4x4 with a towing package, because they pull a lot of different things, but the main thing they utilize is their tractor with the bush hog and box blade that they towed around between Lake Grace and the rec fields and everywhere else. And it's SPOS money, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, sir.
And there's a few dollars difference between a couple of the bids. I'd like to personally recommend Mike Birch. He is a tax-paying citizen of Wayne County. The bid is $54,864.88. We have a motion and a second. Do they have any
motion.
discussion? I made
did,
a
okay.
motion. Commissioner Thomas, second. No discussion. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Hickox,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner McCrary.
Yes.
For the record, that was only a $76 difference.
Yeah. Item 11, appointments, Pineland.
Wait, 10H.
Yeah, H, we added
Did
H.
I'm sorry, I got it right here, just not in the right place. Letter H was the amended agenda to consider approved not to proceed with the CBDG grant. There's some explanation there. Paul, you.
So, this
Is there any
past,
documents on this?
I apologize, and
That's
that's my,
okay.
no, that's my fault. And honestly, that
I'm gonna-
and the other one, there was one more that's it, but I meant to make copies of that, and I apologize. So what this is this is the total estimated project budget. So, we chose an architect that has a lot of experience with CDBG. This past Monday, I believe it was, Christopher Lowe, who works with the Heart of Georgia and is our grant writer, he contacted me and said, basically, Paul, you're not going to like this. The estimated project budget from the architect is $2.1 million. Yeah. And one of the things, so we set up a Zoom meeting for this past Thursday with the architects. And before I did that, I reached out to Jonathan Overholt, who was the bidder on our last project when it was $1.3 million. I was a little astounded that it was that much of an increase, and for lack of a better term, Jonathan kind of agreed. He said, look, Paul, there was some civil engineering that wasn't in the first one. He said, but we kind of took that into consideration as well when we put our bid in. He said, have costs gone up? Yes, they have. He said, I don't know that I would say $2.1 million. Now, on the architecture side, when we talked to them on Thursday in the Zoom call, their basic premise is, look, we're looking at trends all over South Georgia in like buildings. And obviously they don't want to put a price out there where we're gonna for sure go over budget. They want to make sure we go under. So they come up with the original, and I want y'all to keep this in mind. It's the exact same building, 4,700 square foot, interior's the same, everything's the same as the one that y'all did, or the board did back in 2021. So they had originally come in at like $273 a square foot is what Jonathan bid it out for this time last year, basically. And now it's $380. The architect is saying $389 a square foot. So my point to the architects and I told them, I said, look, I talked to a local contractor, and that he does agree that prices have risen, but not quite as high as what y'all are saying. And and he said he understood that you you very well could and probably would come under budget from the $2.1 million. When I made that comment, Christopher Lowe with CDBG, after we hung up from the Zoom call, texted me and said, you need to call me, because I think he saw where I was going. And just so y'all will know, as a commission, my thoughts were, okay, if we get $1 million grant and we can still build this thing for 1.5, then our part would be $500,000. When I called Christopher Lowe after that meeting and he and I talked, he made it clear to me that DCA's standing on this, or historic standing on this, is that whatever the county match is what they hold you to. So as you can see on there at $2.1 million, our match is 1.1. So even if we build it for 1.5, they're still going to hold us to what we say our match is, which means they would kick in $400,000.
So when did we get this information?
We got it, I think, Monday or either Tuesday is when
And the
Christopher
Zoom
gave it to
call
me.
was?
This past Thursday. No.
So we've had this
Yeah,
for,
you had a
Yeah,
call
that's right.
Tuesday.
That's right. This past Thursday.
yeah.
Yes. We were off Friday. I got it this Thursday. We were off Friday. I called the chairman and notified him. And then I think Thursday evening, Commissioner Thomas came in the office, and I kind of explained to him what was going on as well. So I'll just say this. The grant application, the deadline is April 5th. So we would have to move forward tonight. That was the plan, to move forward with something tonight anyway. So with this in mind, the only other option, my personal recommendation is this isn't an option. My other option would be that, we have a 4,000 square foot metal building out here that we're probably going to be all in at around $180,000. I think we could do something very nice along those lines for a senior citizen center. It just wouldn't be probably the architectural block and everything else that they had planned.
We have basically, well, I said, we have three options. We could pay $1.1 million, which I don't think that's a good option. We can reapply for the grant in '25, which I don't think that's a good option. Or we can go with something like the metal building, which we've done out here. And our outlay on something like that, we could build Taj Mahal for $500,000.
Is this open for discussion?
We don't have a motion yet. So I'm opening the floor for a motion to consider or not approve the CBDG grant. Not to proceed with the grant.
I'll make that motion because, well, we'll wait and get a second and then I'll comment.
I'll second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, we gotta discuss this. Those senior citizens have been in that kitchen for 4 years. There is no excuse for them not to have a building. There's no excuse. We have kicked a whole group of our citizens right on down the road, right on down the road. So our solution now is gonna be a senior citizen barn? I'm not okay with a barn. I'm not okay with a barn. I am flabbergasted. One, that I'm seeing it here, to see it there. We cannot do this to the people of Wayne County. There is the MLK building that those folks came out of. If there's some reason we can't reach out to the city of Jessup and say, what do we need to do to get our senior citizens in a facility that will accommodate them? Can we not work with each other? Because the only people who are getting hurt on this is those people. This is wrong. They have to pack up their stuff. Either the community at Hall Richardson doesn't get their community center, which out of all the community centers, Hall Richardson's the one community that uses theirs all the time. So they're gracious enough to share the space. But these people who are trying to do their senior citizens, they gotta pack up all their stuff and put it in a storeroom and drag it out every week. This is devastating. That is devastating. I wish I'd have known, because I'm a researcher by nature. I would have been blowing up every phone. There's got to be a solution for this, but a barn, I'm not okay with a barn. That's where I stand.
Well, and it's not that we haven't been doing anything, because we tried to get the first grant. It was $750,000. We got the architect to come in. Somebody in the crowd out there told us that that building wouldn't be able to be built for that, for the 750, and it was not, and it came in at $1.3 million. So then, I think Mr. Drawdy somebody found $1 million grant, and we could turn that one back in, so we turned it back in. And so I think we just keep hitting wall. It's not that we're not trying. I mean, I understand that we need to get them a nice place. Have you been in the building over here lately?
No, I've never been invited into the building at all.
Oh, well, I wasn't invited, but I went in, and it's nice.
During the daytime.
I mean, it's not a barn. It's got sheetrock. It's got an upstairs storage space. They're putting the air conditioning in now, but it's a nice. I don't have no barn like that. But you need to look at it before we say not to, because for the comparison in price, I think, and I don't know, does that price that you're saying for $180,000, does that include the county workers' payment, or because we would naturally contract out the finishing on the inside by a contractor and not use our county employees, because with the SPLOST being passed, I think we would start utilizing them on the reclamation of the old courthouse to start getting it ready. So when we do the addition, is that correct? Or
Part of it's gonna be county labor. That's not included in that price. In other words, because Kirk and his guys framed all the walls, pulled wire, pulled data wire, and they plan on doing the painting, because they had a sheetrock crew come in. All the insulation was done, contracted out. Sheetrock was contracted out. Air was contracted out. They're hanging lights and going to be doing the paint.
less than $500,000 for sure is what, with the metal building and finishing the inside?
No, absolutely. I think the other day, this last Wednesday or Thursday, Amanda pulled the figures for me, and we were in at 153,000. We've still got, I think, the insulation invoice hadn't come in yet. Labor on heating and air hadn't come in, and labor on the sheetrock crew that can come in. So I'm projecting we'll be right at $180,000 on it.
There's actually a new church has been built out on Joey Williamson Road past the school, metal building. So they can be nice. But if there's other options, I'd like to hear them.
And I did speak with the city about the MLK building, and at that time, they were going, I think they discussed the fire department utilizing that building, and Dr. Schumann, how would you say that? Dr. Schumann, Commissioner Schumann, I don't know. Anyway, Dr. Schumann was wanting to use that building and be able to rent that building out, and we just, once they said that, we didn't pursue it anymore, because we had that building before and there was a leak in there, and the damage that was done from the leak was so expensive that the commission before us they didn't want to pay for it, and the city didn't pursue it any from there. But you may have some pull with that, I don't know.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
anybody else? It just so happened that I was coming through the office last Thursday to pick up the key of the county car, the GUI mobile, to go to Mount Vernon for my region commission meeting, which is the last Thursday in the month. And Brett is the director. So I came in and you were discussing that, and I was glad I came in. The administrator said he was gonna call me. Well, he said he dreaded calling me. And,
Yeah.
but after we talked, if we can't come up with what we have, with the grant, we have to come up with 1.1 million.
Yes.
right.
If we don't have that money, how are we gonna do it? So, with that in mind, we're in the process of looking to build us a new church. And I've called around town, I know there's people that can build one, but there's several, as you say, churches that's metal buildings, and if you pass by them, you don't know they're metal buildings.
Right.
You can dress them up any kind of way you want.
Yes.
And at this point, if we can build the same square footage and dress them up inside like you want to, and outside, that's what I think is the best thing for the senior citizen. Plus, the property is already shovel ready. I mean, they can start work on it whenever we get the contract let. The next thing is that we already had outgrown the Dr. King building over there. I mean, the administrator had been down there a couple weeks ago, and it's a lot of people down there, and they're growing. So that building is not, we've outgrown it.
And they have to have so many square feet
Yes.
per person.
Right. And so, I wouldn't say it's a barn, but if we could put up a metal building with all in, I think we threw out a price around 500 or so thousand, and then we still can kick in some, was it CARES money or something else to kind of keep the county from going in debt, to use that money that we have, that we could have a nice building down there pretty soon. That's what I'm for.
Yeah.
I know you've been beating this forever, and I agree with Commissioner Hickox. We need to do something,
Yes.
and we're not voting on that tonight anyway,
Right.
are we, Mr. Chairman?
Uh,
All we're voting is not to proceed with us paying
That's right.
$1.1 million
That's
for
correct.
a,
and we can look at our options. I think this is what we're talking about here. The metal building may be the quickest solution to getting a place for the seniors to go. But we can weigh our options. What we're looking at tonight is looking for a motion not to proceed with the CBDG grant.
and
I think you've already got that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
I made it.
Oh.
I made the motion.
Oh, you made the motion.
Yeah, we got a motion in a second.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Thomas,
We don't have a choice, yes.
Commissioner Hickox,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner McCreary.
Yes.
Okay, appointments, Pineland, BHTD Community Service Board member. There was a recommendation here, and I spoke with her last night, actually. I called to see if she was willing to take the job as board member. Was she aware of it, those things? She's really excited about it, and name's Ms. Candace Coley. So I'm looking for a motion to approve Ms. Candace Coley as board member.
Got a motion?
Second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Hickox.
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner McCreary,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes. Question before we move on, just right
Yes.
quick. I think Pineland, did not want us to do a dedication of the new building out there, is that correct? Or is that, when are we gonna do a dedication of that new building? I think there was some mixed emotions about that because of what they do out there. So if that was something that Pineland sort of didn't wanna do, to expose people going there. So my thing would be, I think you ordered a plaque to go on the building of
We had ordered plaques at one time, but then the company went under.
oh,
Yeah, that we ordered the plaques from. We did get our money back, but
well, I would suggest that we find somebody that can do a plaque like we got out here, that when it was built and all that kind of stuff, and put it on there and move on. They don't want us to dedicate the building. That's all.
So, yeah.
That's all.
Next item is Adams County Administrator.
Just a few items to try to quickly update y'all. Southern A&E Architects and Engineers contacted me by email last week in reference to, or actually about 2 weeks ago now, in reference to the Ag Center that the school board is building across the street from the high school, Joey Williamson Road. And so we looked into whether or not we had to do any type of agreement to extend utilities out, but from the way the SDS water maps look, that zone actually falls on the other side of Joey Williamson Road. So at some point in time, I'll get Mr. Beaver to draw up a memorandum of understanding, almost like what we did, I think, out on 169 and Sunset, when they went up under the road.
Right.
Because they haven't told me yet whether they're gonna be able to go up under the road, do a road cut or whatever. Mainly just to protect Joey Williamson Drive, that it's replaced back like it should be. The multipurpose ag complex, we've been kind of hammered with rain. Mr. Elton and I have talked about it along with Kirk, and for them to get started on that concession stand out there, the road department's got to get out there and actually bring in some more dirt, I guess right past Kirk's shop where it gets soft, for a cement truck to even get in there and start laying some concrete on that. Fire truck, prison fire crew. I was notified of this last week in reference to, Jared brought it to my attention. Undoubtedly, several years ago, the county commission agreed to give one of our fire trucks to the prison crew that is stationed out at the old Wayne CI. The truck is there and has been sitting there all this time, but they're not able to utilize it because they can't put insurance on it because it's not in their name.
It's not what?
In the state's name. I said their name. I meant to say, Department of Corrections name. So Jared's he's already in the process of identifying exactly which truck that is in our inventory. And we're gonna get, probably pull title on it. And at some point in time, I'd like to come back to y'all to see about, making sure that's okay with y'all, that we do give it to them, because obviously those guys do a fantastic job fighting fire, and it would be nice if they had a truck. I mean, and the trucks, we haven't needed it, it's just been sitting out there.
And they still crank it and wash it
Yes,
regularly.
yes, and I had no clue that we had one out there, but we do. So Jared found it, and so we'll be doing that in the future. Regional Advisory Council, myself and the sheriff went to Appling County as the Regional Advisory Council designees, and we voted on the GOSAC. Or actually, we were just voting delegates to vote on the Regional Advisory Council for the opioid funding. There were several folks from Wayne County that was there, from some of the community service boards here in Wayne. And there's going to be a lot of money flowing to that region that they can access through grants and other type means that way. And I think this is a good time I wanted to read this, if you don't mind. Today, I had reached out to Cameron and Shauna about some other stuff in reference to the opioid funding. And this is the text I got from Cameron Mattingly. He said, "I'm in D.C. now and just got a call from a local church," meaning a Wayne County church, "asking how somebody could get help. He said he got saved, been sober off meth a month, and needs more than we at the church can do. It felt so good to say, send him on, and it won't cost him or the church a dime." So, I mean, they're already putting that money to use that we've, sent towards Anchored in Wellness and their nonprofit. So I was super excited to hear that. DTS has added, we've asked them to add Josh, you can help me here possibly. I know I'm getting you off the cuff. So DTS, we've talked with Nick, and he's added a educational component to our cybersecurity, to where we have, I think, 61, 62 computer users across the county. And so what they do is they push out this weekly training. It's like a 3-minute video. It literally takes 3 to 4 minutes is all it takes. A weekly video with questions you have to answer, and then also some monthly training as well. And I'm not going to say we enjoy it, but it's been, Amanda and I were talking about it today. It has been very educational. And one of the great things that they do is they will send out, for lack of a better term, if there is such a thing, a safe fishing expedition. Training fishing, where they will send out an email to see if we will click on it, and then I get the monthly reports. And so it's pretty good. Out of, I can't remember, like 49 or 50 training fishing emails that they sent out, we only had one employee in Wayne County to click on it. So, but that's good though. So we can now follow up with that person and go, hey, look, now remember, if you're not sure what it is, don't be clicking on it. Because the big thing that back when, and I heard it was Glenn County, but several months ago, a local county got shut down. And, so I kind of got worried, called Nick, and I said, Nick, are we protected or not? And one of the things, and that stimulated all this, but one of the points that Nick made apparent to me was, he said, Paul, y'all are covered. We've got everything set up. Nobody's going to break through our firewalls and hack anything y'all have got. The problem is, it only takes one employee clicking on the wrong file. And when that file opens, he said, your system is compromised. He said, now we can get you back up and running in 24 hours. He said, but the fact is, it's just one employee that clicks on the wrong button and it compromises your system. So that's what this training is for, is to help us get better at that and train our employees in the importance of cybersecurity. The last one is the recreation sweeper and reel mower. Y'all voted on that here in the past to purchase those for the rec department, and they came in last week. There's the reel mower and the sweeper. So, and that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Madam Clerk?
Okay, your February 2024 budget report compared to February 2023 revenues for 24 were $2,057,190.24. 23 revenues, $1,623,299.29. with overall revenues are up from 2023 by 26.728%. Expenses 2024, $1,920,167.21. 2023, $1,812,984.11. Overall expenses are up from 2023 by 5.911%. And I did get the books closed out today. I was stressing, but I got it. The general fund end of month balance is $7,873,088.97. The lost treasury account $9,749,762.10. The restricted account SPLOST $7,528,579.52. T-SPLOST $4,425,822.46. American Rescue Plan $3,219,075.30. Revolving Loan Fund $300,795.04. And then also in y'all's seat, I put the SPLOST 4 spreadsheet. And then I also emailed you that, where y'all would have all that information by email. And then also, I went ahead and did y'all appointments expiring for the remaining of the 2024, so y'all would have all those to be thinking about people to appoint to upcoming boards and authorities. And that's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Thomas.
Just one, Mr. Elton, I have a road in my district off of 341 behind, is that the Bailey Monument Building? Yeah, I think it's Brunswick Road, Old Brunswick Road, I don't know. Old Brunswick Road, yeah, is that on the paving list? But I'd like to see what you can do about getting that one.
Not sure exactly how the procedure goes here. I think my thinking is if we additional roads get added to the paving list, that's probably, I'm assuming that'll be a commission approval type thing.
Well, we usually add them, but each
Yeah,
person
we just
add
haven't
on
added
their
it in
district.
a little while.
Yeah.
So what do we need to do? I agree, because I need Bunyan Road on that list. So what's the procedure for us to add roads to that list? The folks out of Bunyan said they have been on the list for 20 years. I'm like, oh my goodness. So,
When is our next work session?
Next month, we haven't set a date yet, right?
I was wanting to get with the chairman and possibly have one in April. If we can't, we'll have to look at the calendar. Yes, sir, we have to look at the calendar and see.
Be a good time to do it.
will
Yeah,
you put that on the agenda?
yes, ma'am.
So we can add items?
Yep.
Great, great.
Other than that, I just want to commend you guys for the great job you're still doing. Here again, I travel all over the state with ACCG, and everybody say Wayne County's got the best roads in the state, unpaved roads. So
We've got a good commission to support. That's all we're doing.
Yep. Yeah, very true.
Commissioner Hickok. I'm sorry, was that all?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Hickok.
So we are running up on SPLOST, which our SPLOST will roll over in July. I sent out an email to everybody asking for 3 committees. I'm very committed to that, just for the senior citizen issue that came up. You know, if the costs have risen on that one building, what will happen on these 3 huge SPLOST projects? So if anyone in the community is interested, we'll have a committee for the pool and the community center, a committee for the annex for the courthouse, and also, I think, Randy Franks has already set a committee for the equestrian. He calls it an ag complex. The reason I refer to it as equestrian is people can't differentiate between what's going on at the school and what's going on at the county. So I'm wrong for calling it a equestrian center, but that's the only way I can know which facility I'm talking about. So if you're interested, please reach out to the county or reach out to me. I'm very passionate about these 3 projects for SPLOST. That's all I got.
Just in response to that, there is a committee on the pool. There has been for about a month or 5 weeks now. Steve Larson is heading that up. So, if anyone's interested, they can contact either us or Steve Larson. Commissioner McCreary. I'm sorry, was that all?
Oh, that's all.
Commissioner McCreary.
All right, first thing, Amnesty Day, April the 20th. Amnesty Day is when we have roll-offs placed strategically around the county and people can bring their waste. This is between Scriven, Odom, Jessup, and the county. We're all doing this together. The roll-offs will be put out April the 20th. There will be, the best thing to do, is it on there? Okay, perfect. Okay, it's on the screen. It's up here. We're gonna put it on our web page. Wayne, you have to spell this out. And this is not the web page. This is Facebook, right? Or is this the web page? Wayne County, Georgia Government.
That's Facebook.
That's Facebook.
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna try to put it on there. And what this list is, where the trash can or the roll-offs are gonna be located. I text back and two with the mayor of Jessup today. Theirs are gonna be at the farmer's market. We've had them there before. We did not have Amnesty Day last year, but anyway, for the items, in Scriven, we're gonna have it at the park. And in Odom, it's gonna be behind the old school gym. Is that still the school gym? The brick building on the right going into Odom?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's right there beside it. This piece of paper right here will have the items that you can bring. We're asking everybody to contact City of Scriven Hall, 579-2211. If you have questions on items you want to bring, if you don't think they'll accept them or they will, we have not received the tire grant yet, so we will not be receiving tires at this time. The date is April the 20th from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Each municipality will have people there to help you unload and load into the roll-offs, and also help you decide whether what you have brought can be placed in there, because we don't want to ruin this. Broadhurst is they're bringing the roll-offs at no charge. They're putting them out for us. We don't want to lose that by putting the wrong items in there and them telling us they can't do it anymore because somebody put the wrong, whether it's hazardous materials. There's a whole list of things. I'm sure y'all don't want me to read them out. Go on Facebook. We'll put it on our web page. You can go on there. Okay. So I can say, there'll be a link below that you can click on and go in there and look. If you have any questions, City Hall, 579-2211. They'll be able to direct you in whichever way. If it's a question for Jessup or Odom, they'll be able to direct you in who you need to talk to in those municipalities. Everything's volunteer. It doesn't cost the county any money. Broadhurst is bringing the roll-offs at no charge for us to utilize this. We've done it several years in the past, but just wanted to remind everybody, April the 20th from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. I will not be there at 7 a.m., but there will be somebody there. One more thing I wanted to talk about. Commissioner Gordon or Chairman Gordon and myself were appointed to discuss city and county contracts that we have between each other. There were several contracts that we talked about. I felt like it was a good discussion. We all got to say what we wanted to, and concerns about some of these contracts that we have between the two. We did discuss SDS, Service Delivery Strategy, to avoid duplication of services that had been made, and I think that one's for 10 years. And we discussed that the in service delivery strategy, the city agreed that they would provide fire for all structure fires in the county. And since then, we have they have required us to pay $400,000 a year. I say it's around 400,000. It started out lower than that, but with the CPI, is it CPI? It's almost $400,000. We spoke about that. We talked about it. We talked about the pros and cons of the county paying that money to the city because, y'all correct me, y'all were there, so y'all correct me if I'm wrong. If we're paying the city to go to these fires, yes, we want them to go to the fire, but we do not receive credit on our ISO score if they show up. That's the insurance rating. So we're paying the $400,000, but if they're the only ones that show up and none of the volunteer fire stations show up, we don't get any credit for anybody showing up. And that was one of the things that we were talking to them about, what we can do to change that. We did not come up with a decision. They did, I mean, because we don't vote in there, we're just discussing them to find out what the best avenues we can do that's best for the city and the county. We did discuss that the $400,000 that we're paying them, and we did discuss the loss percentages. We have talked about paperwork with these contracts, and lost is local option sales tax. The city of Jessup receives, watch, I won't be able to find it. The city of Jessup receives 41.9%. And yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, 41.9%. Odom receives 1.5%. Scriven receives 3.5%, and the county receives 53.1%. This has been going on. The lost percentages have been going on, and in 2002, there was paperwork that went with it, and went with the percentages, and it explicitly says what each or what the county's responsible for and what the city is responsible for in receiving these percentages they get, because what we were talking about was City of Jessup is at 32.5% population, and they are receiving 41.9%. And we were talking about the compensation. In 2002, loss is voted on, and we agreed to these percentages. I say we did. The commission agreed. Both sides agreed to the percentages, and it says the city will totally fund the City of Jessup Fire Department. The city will respond to all structural fires in the unincorporated areas of Wayne County. The county will totally fund the 8 volunteer fire departments, and they will respond to the fires in the unincorporated area as well as in the cities. The third thing, the city shall be responsible for the entire budget of animal control. The county will furnish the fuel for the vehicles and maintenance on the vehicles for animal control. The county will fund the entire E911 budget, the dispatchers, police, fire, ambulance, and sheriff's departments. That's who E911 handles the calls for. The county will fund the entire budget for the jail and will house city prisoners at no cost, exception for medical expenses that are not covered under county medical contracts. We discussed this and we talked about it, and they said this was not part of the loss stipulations. And that's where I have an issue with it. This is renewed every 10 years. Lost is local option sales tax. in 2012 is when the verbiage here that I just read you were, to me, I mean, maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but the stipulations for each entity receiving this portion of the fundage. And we talked back and forth about it. They were saying that the fire department needed the extra manpower when, Commissioner Thomas, you were here. They were saying that they needed extra manpower to handle these calls. And I believe when it was described to us, the reason for us having to pay the $400,000 was because if we didn't, they had to add additional people to the force so that their ISO rating would not go to a 10 in the city. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, we talked about this. We've got to get it straightened out. We gave them a lot to think about. They're going to look at it in the meeting and be able to decide what they want to do, and then we'll find out what we need to do. To me, we're allowing more than population to 41% to be able to receive these items that I've said in here. Fire department, they'll go to all the structure fires, and we're paying $400,000. We also discussed that we were not getting ISO credit for it. So you kind of pay for something and you don't get a discount on your insurance, so it didn't make much sense to us. So we've got to figure out what they want to do and what maybe we need to do to be able to get credit on our ISO scores. The sheriff's back there shaking his head. He knows what an ISO score will do to your insurance rating. And that's what Commissioner Gordon and I think Commissioner Hopkins have looked at it. We've just incorporated 2 new volunteer fire stations in District 1 and one that's District 2 and one combined. But I thought it turned out pretty good. I don't know how much the city is going to want to work with us on this, but we're going to have to do something to protect all the citizens in what we get, because we were looking at some of the items that we had that the county is responsible for, and one of them was EMS, and I don't know why that's not on here, but I know EMS was one of the items that we were responsible for, and 2/3 of those calls are in the city limits, and we still pay for that. And we talked about that, that we understand you have to have more people for fire, and then we're having to pay for it, but yet we've hired 3 more people for E911 to handle all the calls, and we've also, the EMS, 2/3 of the call, we had to add a 24-hour truck, which cost $230,000 plus a new ambulance and things like that. And we're just trying to work with them and figure out what we need to do to, I've heard the thing, combined services and things like that, and I'm all for it, but I'm not all for it's got to be fair to everybody. And animal control is one of the things that we had talked about. I'm not going to get into that. Are you going to get into that? Okay, he'll explain that. But they did say that they were going to look at us being able to receive the truck back. We gave them a truck in 1993 to help out on the county's portion of the fire. And they did say that they were going to look at making a vote on being able to get that back to us. I also, metal building research. I would like for us to get some research on that building. I agree with Commissioner Hickok.